Joining me now, defense attorney Mario Gallucci to talk about this. Good morning to you.
How are you, Alex?
I'm okay. Not living in Arizona, it's a little easier to talk about this from afar right now. What kind of case would the Justice Department be able to make against this Arizona state law?
They would say that the state law is either unconstitutional or against a federal law, and they would try to probably bring an action in the Supreme Court saying that the state of Arizona is violating either the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution or Civil Rights Act.
All right, now I imagine from the state's perspective, they're going to say the federal government is infringing on the state government's rights, correct?
Well, they'll try to make that argument, but it usually doesn't work if it truly is an unconstitutional law. If the law is found to be unconstitutional, then the state can't enact a law that's unconstitutional.
Okay, if this were to happen, if the federal government steps in and goes after this new Arizona state law, does this put some sort of a new legal precedent out there, the federal government meddling, some would suggest, in state laws?
I wouldn't say that. I would say that it is unusual for the federal government to come in and say something is unconstitutional before it actually takes place. You would usually see a case like this after somebody's rights were violated, and then that person would take the case up to the Supreme Court saying, as a result of this...
So I'm wondering, from a legal perspective, is it better to go after a law prior to it being put into place or afterward, because in terms of gathering evidence and all of that, I mean...
Well, it's unusual that the government is being proactive here instead of reactive. That's an unusual step, but it's not something that they haven't done before.
Why do you think it is being proactive? Is it political pressure?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Political pressure. I think that the people in Arizona are up in arms over this law. The country is divided over the law. It definitely takes into account racial profiling and civil rights, and people are upset about that.
But do you think there are those in Arizona? Obviously, there's a bunch of people who gathered in Tempe last night. You heard Sheriff Joe Arpaio, others, the Governor Jan Brewer, who say, look, we need this law. And for the folks who live in the state of Arizona, the last count I remember seeing, a poll was about 70% of the people there were in support of this law. They live there. They're going to say to the government, let us give it a try and then see what happens. Is there any wisdom to doing that from both vantage points? Can't stronger cases be made?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the state of Arizona is frustrated by the amount of illegal immigrants it has in it, and it feels like the government hasn't done anything to assist them. So they made this law because they appear to be frustrated by the whole issue.
But doesn't each state have its own issues to deal with? We're talking about Arizona with this. We would not be talking about this particular law, say, in, I don't know, South Dakota. It's not a border state. You're not having to... So, I mean, talk about that. Each state does have different perspectives.
They do, but not every perspective in each state is going to affect the Constitution. I mean, this is definitely a constitutional issue. I mean, it definitely impinges on your right to unlawful search and seizure.
What do you think is going to happen come June 29th?
I think that the law is probably going to end up in the courts, and we'll see where it goes from there.
So do you think July 29th this law is going to go into effect? You think the government? You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. We're going to see what happens in what, about a couple of months now.
Yep.
Mario Gallucci, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Happy weekend to you.
Thanks.
In this day and age.